If you think I'm too old for this fight, you need to come tell me in my face.
Whoa.
It's amazing they got paid so much money for that.
25 million and 40 million?
I think 20 and 40. Yeah,
20 and
I think that's
40.
what I'd heard. You know, which I'm happy Mike got the money, and I'm happy that he didn't get hurt. That was my fear, that it was going to be a real fight.
Mike Tyson just unintentionally dropped a bombshell on Joe Rogan's podcast, creating one of the most hilarious and humiliating moments in recent sports talk. Remember those rumors about his fight being scripted? Well, Tyson, in his animated...
Listen, understand it was a big nostalgia hit. It got our attention. It was a big financial promotion for everybody, and it actually worked. Now, the fight was absolutely terrible, and it feels like Paul was holding back his punches, and at times Mike Tyson was holding back punches.
Storytelling accidentally confirmed them. That's right. The legendary fighter essentially admitted the match was a sham, and fans didn't hold back in their backlash. For anyone who grew up watching Tyson destroy opponents in the ring, this revelation felt like a gut punch. The fighter who once seemed invincible was now showing a side that reminded everyone, even legends bleed, even giants stumble. And yet, isn't that what makes him more human, more relatable? How many of us have faced
Figure of my childhood.
Truly, me
when
too.
I was a kid, when he was the champ, it was like, people don't understand what a champ he was. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't just the heavyweight champion of the world, he was an executioner.
moments where we felt the weight of our own limitations? How many have battled their own versions of time, self-doubt, and the world's judgment? Tyson opened up about how the uphill battle wasn't just physical, it was deeply emotional. After nearly 2 decades away from professional fighting, stepping back into the ring was a monumental challenge. I had 8 blood transfusions, he admitted, shaking his...
Bro, your head is so big.
It didn't hurt. Like, he didn't really land anything.
No, because your head is,
Like,
I just
even
tell you,
the
you
one
can just
he
take
landed-
impact like crazy.
Even the one he landed, I saw it coming and I went like this.
his head under the weight of it all. The once unstoppable force was now grappling with the realities of age and effort, and his honesty offered a window into the vulnerabilities of a true legend. As Mike Tyson's admission sank into the room, the bravado faded, replaced by something rare: vulnerability. The one
You've just beaten up a fucking 58-year-old. What am I going to do? Give you credit because you didn't do it that badly? Like, it's not really that honourable, but I was pleased that Mike Tyson seen the fucking final bell, because just for his own manly pride, you know what I mean, to just say, yeah, I fucking stayed in there with him. I didn't go down.
invincible Iron Mike, stripped of his armor, let
Is this rigged or not rigged? See how hard Mike punches? Everyone thinks that Mike is like toying with him, like Jake Paul is Mike's prison bit.
the world see the toll of his journey. It was a moment that revealed the human side of a legend. When asked about Jake Paul's performance, Tyson offered surprising praise, acknowledging Paul's talent and commitment. The kid can fight, Tyson admitted, though some listeners couldn't help but sense a faint trace of sarcasm in his tone. This sparked a wave of responses from boxing experts, with opinions sharply divided. Then came the inevitable question: was the fight scripted?
So to answer your question, 100% this was fixed. They sat it out and talked about it. It went to decision because that was a neutral way to end it, and it went the full 8 rounds to keep people entertained. They didn't want it to end quickly. 100% it was fixed. It was smart on them, a big money grab.
First, Tyson dismissed the speculation, calling it nonsense. He claimed the viral audio
And I watched the guy's face, and I watched that confidence bleed from his face instantaneously.
Yeah.
He had absolutely lost the fight long before Mike had ever gotten in the ring.
of Paul allegedly saying, "I got your money," had been blown out of proportion. But skeptics weren't convinced. The fight's sluggish pace and Tyson's noticeable hesitancy to unleash his signature uppercut only fueled suspicions. Critics argued the match felt more like theater than a genuine competition. Even Tyson's most loyal supporters struggled to ignore the glaring
You know, Shannon, you're Super Bowl champion. You know what I'm saying? We've been covering sports. I've been covering sports for 30 years. It's one thing for an exhibition here, there, whatever. But you can't continue to be allowed to build a career without getting into the ring with fighters. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon, I think the Mexican monster himself, David Benavidez, I might be wrong, but I think it was him. He said, I'll fight him. Now, this is a man that fights at 168, Molly. Jake Paul was in the ring at 228.
consistencies in his typically aggressive fighting style. What should have been a triumphant return to the ring instead left fans questioning the authenticity of the event and Tyson's legacy. Joe Rogan pressed Mike Tyson on whether he believed Jake Paul was the real deal or just a marketing genius. Ever the pragmatist, Tyson admitted Paul's ability to sell a fight was undeniable. "That's half the battle these days," he remarked, acknowledging how boxing has evolved into a sport where showmanship often outweighs skill. Yet, even as
like he was walking with a cane just like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, but he was really out of shape.
He had bad sciatica.
Bad sciatica?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, real bad. You know, it wasn't that long ago that he was, you know, I mean, when I first met him, he was very, very heavy. He was not working out at all, and I asked him, how come you don't work out? He goes, I don't want to ignite my ego.
Tyson praised Paul's promotional savvy. He couldn't entirely dismiss the doubts surrounding their match. For every compliment he gave Paul, there seemed to be an unspoken awareness of how the spectacle might tarnish his own legacy. For fans of the once dominant champion, watching Tyson struggle in the ring was bittersweet. His movements were slower, his punches lacked their iconic ferocity, and his energy seemed diminished. It was...
No, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying he was in the ring at 228, and you got a cat 60 pounds lighter than him saying, I'll fight you. You know why? Because what they're saying is, when you gonna fight real box?
A stark reminder that even Iron Mike couldn't escape the grip of time. The fight left many questioning why he agreed to it in the first place. Was it a final hurrah, a financial necessity, or the allure of one last moment in the spotlight? Whatever the reason, the outcome felt like a sobering reality check. The backlash wasn't limited to Tyson. Jake Paul faced criticism as well. Analysts suggested he held back and could have ended the fight if he'd wanted to. The leaked audio clip of Paul saying, "I got your money," only fueled accusations that the match was a cash grab. Social media exploded, with hashtags like "scripted fight" trending as fans dissected every moment of the bout. While Paul's defenders argued his rising star was injecting fresh...
I mean, you don't get no kudos about, oh, he's 58. No, that's not what this is. This was not some a celebrity. This was not for some charity. No. Oh, we're gonna do this. And Jake Paul, they asked Jake Paul, did he take his foot off the gas? Stephen A., this is what he said. Yeah, definitely a bit. I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Fresh energy into boxing, purists saw it as a betrayal of the sport's integrity. For many, the fight blurred the line between competition and spectacle, leaving the legacy of both fighters in question. The fight's conclusion, punctuated by Jake Paul bowing awkwardly to Mike Tyson in a gesture of respect, left a sour taste for many. The crowd's boos echoed a shared disappointment. This wasn't the Mike Tyson they remembered. The once dominant force who struck fear into opponents now seemed like a shadow of his former self. Tyson admitted that losing in front of a packed stadium was humbling, though he remained defiant, insisting that stepping into the ring at all was a victory in itself.
He was jacked and in shape, and he looked super intense.
Yeah.
And he was just like ready to go, and it was terrifying. It was like, and Jamie...
Wait, when was this?
A few years ago. 4 years ago? 4 years ago?
For all its controversy, the fight made one thing clear. This was as much about entertainment as it was about boxing. Tyson's willingness to engage in such a spectacle sparked broader questions about the future of the sport. As crossover bouts and celebrity matches continue to rise in popularity, the line between authentic competition and theatrical drama grows increasingly blurred. For Tyson, the fight was a gamble, a shot at reclaiming a piece of his legacy, even if it meant inviting public scrutiny. Yet, in doing so, Tyson revealed more about himself than any...
Like, you had to be alive and be a kid during the time where he was the champion to understand what he was. Because there was... After Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes was a great fighter, but no one liked him because he beat up Muhammad Ali.
Unexpected, as he shared his mix of wisdom, self-reflection, and sheer absurdity on Joe Rogan's podcast, Rogan could only nod along, half amused and half bewildered. Mike Tyson's revelations took a wild turn when he casually admitted to full-on dives into the psychedelic deep end. "I take enough mushrooms to kill an elephant," Tyson stated, As if
when he retired, then there was just like a series of boring champions. Like no one cared about the heavyweight division at all. No one cared.
discussing something as mundane as his morning coffee. Joe Rogan, known for his love of altered states, looked intrigued but slightly wary. Tyson, unfazed, launched into a monologue about how these mind-bending trips connect him to the universe and allow him to see God in colors. Picture Rogan trying to keep a straight face while digesting that statement. Then came the life advice. Tyson began dropping nuggets of wisdom like a Zen guru. If Zen gurus were built like tanks and spoke with a lisp, love isn't about control but surrender, he declared, a profound statement coming from a man who once owned pet tigers and lived through some very public chaos. But there he was, talking about emotional vulnerability with the heart of a lovesick poet. Rogan, trying to take him seriously, added his trademark, "That's deep," commentary, though it was hard to tell if he was buying it or just being polite. Tyson wasn't done yet. He peeled back layers of his past, speaking with a brutal honesty that felt like the result of years of reflection, and perhaps a few too many mushroom trips. Mike Tyson took listeners on a raw, unfiltered journey as he opened up about his younger, wilder self, reckless, self-destructive, and utterly chaotic. "I was my own worst enemy," he admitted, as if that wasn't already painfully obvious to anyone who's followed his turbulent career. Tyson painted a vivid picture of his youth, fueled by money, fame, and a total lack of restraint. All that chaos, he said, was just being young. Because, of course, every young adult blows through millions and owns pet tigers. Then came the existential bombshells. Tyson veered into deeply philosophical territory, even leaving Joe Rogan scratching his head. "Legacy doesn't matter," he declared. "We're all going to be forgotten." This from a man whose name is practically synonymous with boxing. The idea that Tyson, legend and icon, could so casually dismiss the concept of legacy was equal parts profound and absurd. He followed it up with a surprisingly serene admission. He's made peace with death and even finds it beautiful. Rogan, perhaps unsure if this was a cry for help, or just classic Tyson, nodded along like a therapist trying not to spook his patient. But Tyson wasn't done. He spoke candidly about fear, how it once ruled his life, and how he's learned to conquer it. For a man who spent decades terrifying opponents, the irony was striking. "Fear is an illusion, something we create in our minds," he explained. "Deep stuff, for sure, but coming from someone famous for biting an opponent's ear off, it wasn't without a touch of irony." What made the episode unforgettable wasn't just Tyson's revelations, but the way he delivered them. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Whether recounting his psychedelic adventures, turbulent past, or thoughts on mortality, Tyson spoke with a bluntness that was both refreshing and jarring. He owned his flaws, embraced his contradictions, and laid bare the journey that brought him to this strange, reflective phase of his life.